Welcome to the Customer Wins Podcast, where business leaders discuss their secrets and techniques for helping their customers succeed and in turn grow their business.
Hi, I'm Rich Walker, the host of The Customer Wins, where I talk to business leaders about how they help their customers win and how their focus on customer experience leads to growth. Some of my past guests have included Molly Pierce at Track That Advisor, Josh Datar of Typhone, and Michael Jeanfreau of Mariner Wealth. Today, I'm speaking with Ellen Rogin, the financial intuitive and best-selling author. And today's episode is brought to you by Quick, the leader in enterprise forms processing. When your business relies upon processing forms, don't waste your team's valuable time manually reviewing the forms. Instead, get Quick. Using Quick, you'll be able to generate completed forms and get back clean, context-rich data that reduces manual reviews to only 1 out of 1,000 submissions. Visit quickforms.com to get started. Now, before I introduce today's guest in full, I want to give a big thank you to Colleen Bowler for introducing me to Ellen. She's a past guest on this show, a very giving person, and the founder of the Passport Package, which helps advisors build stronger relationships with their clients. Go check out her website at thepassportpackage.com. All right, Ellen Rogin, who's a CPA and CFP, is a money expert, New York Times bestselling author of Picture Your Prosperity, and author of Messages from Your Money, How to Stress Less, Prosper More, and Reshape Your Relationship with Money. A former wealth advisor who built and sold a successful firm, Ellen now helps conscious, generous entrepreneurs and business owners unlock their prosperity potential, growing their income, enjoying their work more, and aligning with the impact they're here to make. That all sounds really good to me, Ellen. She's also the creator of the Money Talks cards, a tool for sparking meaningful money conversations. Her work has been featured on CNBC, ABC, NPR, Time, and Oprah magazine. Ellen, welcome to the Customer Wins.
Rich, I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you for your generous invitation.
Oh, I'm excited to talk to you. I don't think I've talked to anybody like you before, so this is going to be a lot of fun. For those who haven't heard this podcast before, I talk with business leaders about what they're doing to help their customers win, how they build and deliver a great customer experience, and the challenges to growing their own company. Ellen, I want to understand what you do a lot better. How do you help people?
I help people have a better relationship with their money. I was a financial advisor for close to 30 years. And what I saw over and over was didn't matter how much money people had. Often they had a lot of worry about money, or it didn't fit into their lives in ways that were always peaceful and helpful and generous. And, when early in my career, I would have thought, oh, if you've got millions and millions of dollars, everything's fine. And anyone who's in this profession or it talks to anybody about their money knows that it's not really about their money. And so what was fascinating to me my whole career was really how people make decisions about money and what impacts those, and understanding our money beliefs was way more interesting to me than, say, allocating 401k plans. And that was a big part of the reason I decided it was time to leave that part of my professional life and spend more time really helping people transform that relationship.
Nice. I'm reminded of Tony Robbins when he says, money doesn't solve your problems. It just helps you arrive at your problems in style. I also saw a statistic once, and it was something like everybody thinks they'll be happier if they just had 10% more money. Have you heard such statistics, and why do you think that is?
I haven't heard that statistic. There's lots of interesting ways that we think about our money. And I think that it might be, Rich, that we develop our attitudes and beliefs about money when we're little itty bitty people. So between conception and age 7 is where most of our beliefs are ingrained, including our money beliefs. And it could be that there's a fantasy of just a little bit more would help. I could travel to better places. I could have a better car, a better house. You probably have heard these stats too, that once you get to a certain level of income, it used to be around $80,000, additional income doesn't actually bring you more happiness. There's really interesting research that came after that found, well, actually, having more money can bring you more happiness, assuming you use it to help other people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But does that include helping your own family, though? I mean, because isn't having more money enabling you to have better vacations or not have stress about what's going on in life? I mean, geez, summertime hits and my kids want to go to camp. Those are expensive, right?
Yeah, a generous purpose with your money. So it could be gifting to someone else. I don't actually think the research had to do with like providing for your family. That feels good, but we can think of the extreme of uber wealthy people, and this is not always the case, but some of them have kids that are kind of messed up because they had so much money they never had at work or find their own purpose. So there's this balance there of how we use our money to bring more happiness. Um, the research was really based around doing something, either a charitable donation or giving to someone else or doing something kind with the money versus necessarily a lifestyle thing.
Yeah. And maybe that's why these TikToks are taking off right now, where people are giving away money to help people in need. I don't know if you heard the story of a roofer has a 9-figure company and he's just going to Walmart and paying people's receipts when they come out. It's like it's reverse receipt day. Maybe that's what it is, that kind of giving where you feel like you have an impact. Um, I want to go back to what you're saying about forming these beliefs when you're young. And I may have told the story to others, but when I was 4 or 5 years old, we were at the laundromat. We were very, very poor. We're on welfare. And I watched a woman drive in, go to the coin operated soda machine and get a soda and walk out. She didn't go to the laundromat for laundry. She just wanted a soda. And I noticed she was driving a Mercedes. Well, we weren't allowed sodas. We couldn't afford soda. So I equated her ability to buy a soda with a Mercedes. And therefore, I saw Mercedes as a wealthy vehicle. And now, if you want to know how that manifested, I view wealth as having 2 refrigerators so I can have a drink fridge. I'm curious what normal behaviors or common behaviors you see have been formed at these young ages that are holding people back now as they've grown up.
Yeah, I don't think there are normal behaviors because everyone's different.
Maybe common, typical.
Common, yeah. Well, I hear people talk about the worry around money. This feeling like when we're worrying, we're actually doing something. Um, it, I like to talk to money, and money talks back to me. It's part of this intuitive skill I've built over the years. And one of the things money tells me all the time is it doesn't want people to worry about it. And research shows bears this out that worry actually does not move us ahead. It keeps us ruminating over what's going on. And severe worry, great anxiety about money, can actually lower your IQ. So it keeps you from being able to find solutions. And some of that worry comes from when we're very little or these ingrained beliefs. So that's one. The other one that I see quite often is you have to work really, really, really hard to make money.
Yeah.
And that it has to be hard work. And I'm not saying that you have to be a slacker, but we can all think of examples of people that have either built good businesses or have really good incomes and have good balance in their life. And they're not necessarily grinding things out where they burn themselves out.
It's true. I look, I'm an entrepreneur, so I have that mindset of I'll just work harder. I'll do more things. And my gosh, I've burned out many times on that road. And I've watched other people not work as hard and become far wealthier faster. And it's a fascinating thing. So it's always a question in my mind. I want to talk to you about your financial intuition. So what is it? Like, how did you get this intuition and what is it? How does it manifest for you? What does it mean?
I think we are all intuitive. We we just don't always flex that or build that muscle. And my entire career as a financial advisor, I was using my intuition, but I don't think I was realizing I was doing that. So I used to be able to have this sense just from talking to someone, not even needing to know anything about the details of their finances. I had a really strong knowing if they were going to be on track for their goals.
Hmm.
I attributed it at the time to listening to how they were talking about their money, which, to give an example, if when I would talk to people that were overspenders, they would tell me what they didn't do. I don't take big fancy trips. I don't have a big fancy car. It was focused on what wasn't happening. And the people that I work with that were really great savers and on track for their goals would talk about what they were grateful for and what was working in their lives. So I attributed to that, which was part of it. But I think my ability to have this knowing was an intuitive, was intuitive knowing, really. I would prove it out by running projections. I'm a certified financial planner. And so, of course, I wasn't going to just tell someone, hey, Rich, I know you're going to be okay. And they go, okay, because people wanted to base it based on our left brain as well. And then a couple of years before I sold my practice, I had an experience where I was working with someone at a workshop, and all of a sudden, out of my mouth came a message that was not my words. And it was really as if money was talking through me. And it freaked both of us out a little bit, but it delivered a message. I was working with a guy who was in kind of a healing profession. And the message that came out was paraphrasing, but I don't even want to be around you. And what makes you think you can't be spiritual and have me in your life? Like money was talking to this guy. And it turned out he stopped me and said, Ellen, I'm wearing this pendant. It was the patron saint of poverty. He took it off. And then I grabbed his hand. I said, now I want to be with you. Now, that was a weird conversation for me to be having, not someone I knew well. And afterwards, I was like, what was that? And the facilitator was like, oh, that was your intuition. And over the years, my process has developed where I get messages for people from money. I do it now through journaling and prepare messages that end up being really helpful for people. And you were the one that told me this when we talked earlier, that when you speak truth to people, it transforms. Because I said to you, I'm not sure why this is helpful for people, because it's not like when I was doing my financial planning and running projections and telling people you need to save X to retire at 65 or whatever their goal was. But these conversations with people end up reducing fears for them, having them have clarity to charge more money or where to focus their attention in their businesses. And they're affirming and inspiring and helpful for people. And I love that, because there's so much angst and worry people have around money. If there's anything I can do to lower that and have people feel excited about their prospects, then I'm doing the work I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I love that alignment. It's heart and soul alignment with what is real in front of you that you're helping people with. I don't know if you mind diving deeper into this, because I truly believe in psychic capabilities, spiritual capabilities, empathy, and empathic capabilities. I have plenty of those in my own experiences. To the effect of knowing when somebody's going to call before we had caller ID and knowing exactly who it was, or being able to speak words that didn't sound like mine at the moment they came out. It feels really strange when that happens. And I'm curious. I was actually talking with my wife and my son about this recently, about gut instinct, intuition, but also pattern recognition. And part of me wonders how much of this is pattern recognition because you met with so many clients and you saw so many of those circumstances over and over again, versus maybe something more spiritual or something more ethereal that is speaking through you and you're allowing it to happen. What is your view on this?
I think there's many helpful things that we can't see or prove why they happen. And it's interesting to me that if we can't prove it, people feel like it's not true. There's a
Right.
lot of things we can't prove. We can't prove love, can't see it, we can't articulate it really. It's a feeling or a knowing. And pattern recognition. I do have a deep financial background. I got lots and lots of letters after my name. I think that helps inform and make me feel confident about or be able to have other conversations with people. But there have been times when I'm journaling with money, and the words that come out are not words that Ellen Rogin ever uses. They're not expressions that I use. And more and more, and there really seem to be messages that can land with the people I'm working with. So if someone is really open to spiritual concepts, they might get a meditation that comes through or something about a past life or ancestral trauma. And then when I've done sessions with people that is not their MO, they haven't spent time in that area, they get a message that lands for them. And it just sounds like we're talking about their relationship with money and their partner's relationship. So that helps me feel like there's something that isn't Ellen trying so hard to do this. And whenever I've questioned things, like there was at the end of a message, I'll get a money mantra for someone. And I had this one come through for someone, and I'm like, that's stupid. And I changed it. And then I went back and said, money had a mantra about something with you doing a tango with it or dancing with it. And I thought that was dumb. She goes, no, I'm a dancer. That's perfect.
Wow.
And so whenever I've second guessed things, it's usually not to the better. It never is.
Well, that's actually part of my question is, are you giving yourself permission to have these things pass through you? Do they just come out? You have no control, like, blah. Is it channeling something?
Well, it feels like it is channeling something, but I have permission. It's not like I'm walking past people on the street going, oh, they're going to be in debt forever. First of all, I never get messages for people that are scary or bad for them. It's always something that can be useful and helpful for them. But I don't know. I was working, one of my friends who I'm in we meet on a regular basis to talk about our businesses. And she's had some scarcity thoughts and everything. Like we've had lots of conversations, and sometimes she's worried about people stealing her ideas. And like over and over. And she gets like there's something scarcity about it. And I just had this sense, I said I would do a little mini reading for her. And this is not her stuff. Like we can take on ancestral trauma. And if you just think about the fact, like if your parents went through the Depression, or if people had parents that went through the Holocaust or some other really traumatic event, that will impact future generations. And that was the sense I got from when I dug in a little deeper for her. And so it's a pattern she's repeating. She doesn't have to keep repeating it, but it's not helpful for her because she's holding on too tight to her ideas instead of like your spirit of generosity. Like, let's put this out there and help more people.
Well, you remind me of something that is ancestral that I hadn't given thought to for quite some time. My mom would tell stories about her father. Now, we didn't find this out until really late in his life, but his father was very, very wealthy. And his father was one of these millionaires during the 1929 stock market crash and lost it all. But what he effectively built the railway between Kansas and California to ship cattle.
Wow.
I mean, they had properties in Arizona and in one of the richest areas in San Diego and also in various places. My grandfather grew up a really, really rich kid with no worries. And then he goes off to be on his own and just squanders it and doesn't inherit anything, but doesn't know what to do with his life. So he keeps trying to get rich quick and doing different things. So my mom grew up on a chicken farm because that was the latest scheme of, we'll raise chickens, we'll make a bunch of money. And they were poor. They were so poor. At one point, he tried to get his kids to eat grass because it was good for cows. Could be good for kids. I mean, they were poor. And so there was always this thought in the back of my mind of like, don't want to repeat my grandfather's mistakes of get rich quick. And I'll even argue maybe that's why I've stayed in my business for 23 years, because I have to prove it's not a get rich quick scheme.
Yeah. Well, and I think exploring things like, what was it like for our ancestors and what have I taken on? And is it helpful or unhelpful? Right. So the fact that you're noticing that, that's the question. Are these beliefs or these things we're taking on, are they serving us going forward?
Yeah.
I was thinking about this a lot the last couple of weeks and coming out of the financial services profession. a lot of what advisors do helps on the tactical side of things, which is incredibly important, right? To make
Yeah.
sure your investments are working for you, and you're taking advantage of all the tax benefits you can, et cetera. And what I deeply know is that our relationship with money, what we think about it, how we deal with it, is so fundamental, and it doesn't get talked about enough or dealt with. It's like the roots of the tree that are there. So, um, the fact that you have this family history clearly impacts you now. Does it have to? No, but it does. And if we're not conscious of how it is, it can impact, we all have things that can impact us in helpful ways or really unhelpful ways.
Honestly, I think the reason I haven't thought about it in 15 years is because I'm past it. I
Mm.
don't think about those things. I've proven success with my company. We've grown it and we're continuing to grow and evolve with it. And I'm very happy about that. I think one of the things I think a lot about is, can you be happy at all times, or you always have to achieve more to be happy? That's why my first question about, everybody thinks if they just had a 10% increase in their income, they'd be happy. And as soon as they get it, it's 10% more spending and now they're not happy again. And it's this choice. But I want to go back to this intuition stuff because to me, it's super fascinating in terms of how it just speaks to you. So when you journal, do you have an intention as you journal? Are you trying to solve a specific problem, or do you just sit there with an open mind and let things flow? How do you approach it? I'm
Well,
super curious.
I like to ask questions. So I journal on a regular basis for me. And I'll ask, like, what do you, if I like to do it daily, it doesn't always happen, but what do you, and the you could be my divine partners, it could be money, it could be whatever my higher self. So for people, it's whatever speaks to them. What do you want me to know today? What work are we going to do in the world? What would be helpful? How do I trust more? Like whatever's up for me. If I'm doing a messages from money session for someone, I'll ask, hi, Money, what messages do you have for me to share with Rich? What do you want him to know? And then I just I just type and I try to stay out of the way.
What did it say? What does it want me to know? I want to know.
Yeah. So
I don't know if you really did that on me. I know it.
the thing is, this is so my process. Sometimes I get senses from people about what would be helpful, but I think the journaling helps me get out of my own way with it so
Yeah.
that things come through. And when I know I'm working on a session for someone, sometimes I'll be somewhere else and go, oh, like this will be important for them. I like to ask for information from people because I do listen to the way people word things. And I was talking with a financial advisor yesterday, and as she was talking about her business, she just kept using words that made me so clear that she was making things harder for herself. And the more we talked, she's like, yeah, ever since, COVID, I want to do my business differently, but I feel like I have to do it the same way or the old way was hard. And um, I don't know if you know what this word means, but the word abracadabra, do you know what it actually translates into, Rich?
I've never thought about that. No.
Like magician, we think like, oh, it's
Yeah.
magic, but it has Hebrew and Aramaic roots, and it translates into I will create as spoken.
Oh.
So part of the reason I listen to the way people are talking so discerningly is because our words make a huge difference on what shows up for us. And it gives us clues to areas that we're making harder for ourselves, limits we might be putting up, or ways we're creating the reality we most desire by the words we use.
Oh, I agree with that. So I published a book on how to change yourself, which is about changing core beliefs that you have internally. First identifying them and then choosing better beliefs. But part of this, I don't know if it really comes through in my book or not, is that how you talk to yourself, the actual words you use will program your mind. I believe that your mind will answer any question you give it, and it will take any direction you give it. So you have to be really, really careful about what you say to yourself. When I hear myself say, oh, I can never do that, I immediately stop and say, no, 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 no. I can do that if I wish to. I can do that if I try to. I can do that if I work at it. Not this never, I'll never do that kind of stuff. But if you keep saying these things, these words matter to yourself and they really inform your being as to what you're going to do. And I know money plays into this. I mean, part of my book is beliefs, so money beliefs are a big part of how you run your life, and I talk about that in my book too. Yeah, so I'm curious though, with your books and your outreach, are you trying to help advisors develop this intuition as well?
For the advisors that are open to that, I've run courses for them on. We talk about intuition in all the courses that I do. It's also what I'm really inspired to do is help advisors help their clients shift their money beliefs to ones that are more helpful. And it starts with the advisor too, like walking their talk. Um, and being able to clear their unhelpful money beliefs. Just because someone's a financial advisor doesn't mean everything's working perfectly in their life and that they don't worry or that they don't have this is going to be hard or limiting beliefs about the way things need to be done. Um, I Intuition really is a muscle that just needs exercising, and it shows up differently for all of us. Like for my intuition shows up in this deep knowing. For
Mhm.
other people, they see signs
Yeah.
or they may see pictures or hear things. We all can access it in different ways. How does yours
Yeah.
show up for
Personally,
you?
I have different ones, actually, very different ones. So when I meet people for the first time, usually in person, not over Zoom, it doesn't work as well, but I will have movies play in my head, and the movie will tell me something about them. And often the movies are simple, like there's a door. Can I open it? Is it locked? If I open it, what does it show me? And so there's a variety of things like that. But the movies can also be just helping me understand and illustrate a concept. If you're talking about something, something might play in my head to illustrate it all. And it could be totally different than what you're saying, but it plays out the message in the way that I need to hear it. The other one, though, I think I told you this when we first met, is that I developed a skill of mirroring people because I moved every year of my life as a child. I learned that people like themselves, so I just mirrored them so they would like me. And that skill became innate. And it wasn't, I mean, nobody told me to do this. It's just what I did intuitively, let's say. But probably into my 30s, I realized I need to be able to control this and turn it on or off. And so now I have this ability to turn it on and reflect back to people what they need to see at the moment they need to see it in a way that will work for them. And what does that actually look like, Ellen? It's just I have this feeling. Sometimes I'm just vibrating with it, and I have this very, very strong desire and need to show them something or tell them something. Often I'll ask for permission if it's okay, if they're recepting of it. And then whatever words come out, come out. Like I didn't script it, I didn't plan it. It just comes out and it resonates with them. And it is a truth that has not been spoken to them yet that shows them what's going on with them, with their views, whatever. So they make a breakthrough, they have a change, they have some kind of transformation. It's really something I love, and I don't try to do. It just happens.
Well, what I love about A, that story is really interesting, and B, that you trust it, that you don't go, should I really tell them that? I mean,
Oh, it's
it's
hard.
beautiful you ask permission, but you're like, this is a truth that's coming through for you.
I have to admit, Ellen, every single time it comes up, I ask myself, should I say this? Because what I'm going to say can be quite hard for people to hear. And I'm not saying I do it mean, where I have very loving intent when I do it, but still, I mean, can you imagine seeing a literal mirror of your flaws or your challenges, your gaps being shown to you, perhaps by a stranger you just met 30 minutes ago? This happens. So I always ask, like, oh, should I do this? Like, I might lose a friendship over this. Never happened though. I never lose the friendship over it. I never lose any kind of relationship from it. Um, so I love that. I admire what you're trying to do and how you're helping people. What is Messages from Money book? What does it actually say? Is it a bunch of different things you've heard, or is it what is the story about?
So messages, my two books I wrote before Messages from Money, I had co-authors for. Picture Your Prosperity was with Lisa King, and Great with Money was with Melissa Burke. And Messages from Money, Money was my co-author. So
Nice.
Money wrote the forward for the book, and it's a message from Money in there. And I go through a framework the prosperity framework that I developed, which is really 4 steps. The first part is being aware. So aware of your thoughts, aware of your thinking, the things we've been talking about, your beliefs. The second part is being clear. So this is clear on where you want to go, and then using your mind as a tool to help you see into the future and create the future. So visualization, clarity, aware, clear, care. We live in a material world and money wants you to care for it. So this is, I don't go deep into this book, but things like, oh, you should spend less than you earn. You should be a good saver. You should make your money work for you. So the things that we know, super important. And the last part is share. And this is about being generous with your money. When people are clinging too tightly to what they have, especially if they're doing it out of fear, like I'm not going to be okay, or I'll give back when I have more than enough money, you can't receive if your fists are clenched.
Yeah.
On the other hand, there's some people that just give because they don't feel comfortable having the money. And neither of those, there's a balance there that's important. So I go through those 4 parts of the framework in Messages from Money. And throughout the book, there's money mantras and action steps you can take to practice these ideas.
Oh, that's awesome. Look, I have tons of more questions for you, but I can't ask them all. So as I get to my last one, before we go there, what is the best way for people to find and connect with you, Ellen?
If you go to ellenrogin.com, ELLENROGIN.com, you can find out about all the different things I do, the Messages from Money. I do speaking, lots of stuff there. I like to hang out on LinkedIn, so you can link with me there as well. So those would be 2 good places. Oh, and I should mention this because more and more I'm doing really helpful videos. So I'd adore it if you went to my YouTube channel, which you can find at Ellen Rogin.
Nice. Yeah, you're very easy to find on LinkedIn, but I'll go look up your YouTube now. All right, here comes my last question. Who has had the biggest impact on your leadership style and how you approach your role today?
I'm going to mention 3 people from totally different parts of my life. The first one is a woman named Suzanne Stone, who I lost contact with many years ago. But when I first started in business, she told me about networking in a beautifully generous way. She said, Ellen, you reap what you sow, and the more generous you are with people, the more that will flow back to you, and not necessarily from the same person. And that has been my business growth strategy all these years.
Nice.
And I know what I told you this when we met before, Rich, that you are so generous in your purpose with this podcast. And that is something that I know you live your life by. The second person is Carl Garino, and I met him. He was very involved in an investment management company. I've known him years. He was such a beautiful leader. Everyone who worked for him adores him, and he is a beautiful human. And the last person is Lynn Twist, who wrote a book called The Soul of Money. And Lynn is an amazing human. She was a mentor of mine before I ever met her for like 10 years because her book changed my life, The Soul of Money. And I was fortunate enough to go to the Amazon into the rainforest with Lynn, with my daughter and with one of my friends and a group of other women. And she is incredible. So I'm lucky to know all those people.
Yeah. You have a wealth of people around you. That is awesome. I love it. Well, I love asking this question. All right. I want to give a huge thank you to Ellen Rogin, New York Times bestselling author of Picture Your Prosperity and author of Messages from Money, for being on this episode of The Customer Wins. Go check out Ellen's website at ellenrogin.com. And don't forget to check out Quick at quickforms.com, where we make processing forms easier. I hope you enjoyed this discussion. We'll click the like button, share this with someone, and subscribe to our channels for future episodes of The Customer Wins. Ellen, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, and thank you for the work that you do in the world.
Thanks for listening to the Customer Wins podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.